Welcome to the first elections full committee for 2023. I'm happy to have everyone here with us. We're going to get started with our first meeting. Happy Friday. And this is a short session, so we're going to move fast. A lot of the work will be done in the subcommittee, and once we get to the full committee, we will not have another hearing of those bills as they're vetted through the subcommittee. We have a new member with us. We have Delegate Campbell. She's from the 24th District. Welcome, Delegate Campbell. Delegate Campbell will be assigned to Subcommittee 1 and Subcommittee 3. I'd like to also introduce Meg Lamb. She will be the counsel for our full subcommittee. And we have Karen Gilmore. She's our new clerk. And I think that George Pillion is going to be our page this year. I don't see him with us, but hopefully he will join us later. We have Miss Regina Johnson. She's with Committee Ops. She'll be working with us. And of course, our fantastic IT that keeps us up and going. We always love the folks with IT and Mr. Troy back there that we all rely on so much. So thank you all for everything that you do. As chairman, it's my responsibility just to keep everything rolling and make sure that the bills are going to the subcommittees and we keep things flowing very quickly as we are in a short session. And then I'll rely on the subcommittee chairs to set their dockets and their agenda, and then we'll move forward very swiftly to the full committee. And I just want to thank everyone in the committee, making sure that we're getting on time to the subcommittee. We do meet early, and just be respectful of everyone, because on Tuesday and Wednesday we have to meet on time, be here, and because right after that everyone has to move on to another committee. So we will take testimony. I would encourage folks to sign up and maybe send your testimony through email. That would be helpful. We may not be able in subcommittee to hear everyone publicly, but email and your words, that way we'll make sure that we'll get that to everyone, to all of the delegates. I would also ask that we keep order in the audience, and we're respectful also within the committee process. Again, much of the work will be done in subcommittee. Once we get to full committee, we're not going to rehear the bills. We'll just give an update from the subcommittee chairs and then vote to move on to the full floor. All right, with that, I would ask that the clerk take roll. Delegate Greenhall. We will start off with you this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members, for allowing me to bring you House Bill 1377. The purpose of this bill is very simple. It's simply to require the local registrars to update the voter registration with people who became ineligible during the prior week, who either died or moved away. Last session, we agreed that with a 45-day voting period, we needed to have accurate voter rolls, so we required vital statistics to update the the Department of Elections with this information on a weekly basis. So this is just simply requiring the registrars to update on a weekly basis as well. And I do have, there's no fiscal impact and no extra work, no extra burden. It's simply doing the work weekly rather than waiting and doing it on an occasional basis. And I do have one constituent who should be online to speak, Nanette Randall. So, and thank you, Madam Chair and members, for allowing me to speak.
Okay. Before we bring people in from the outside, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of House Bill 1377. Okay. Is there anyone in opposition in the audience that wishes to speak? Okay. Are we able to bring this person in?
She's in the room, Madam Clerk.
I'm trying to unmute. Am I unmuted?
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nanette Randall. Madam Chair, how much time do I have to speak to this?
I would say if you could sum it up in maybe 90 seconds, that'd be great.
Okay. So what got me started on this path of voter rolls began rather innocently. I worked as an election official in 2022 in the primary and found that one of my neighbors who had been deceased for 2 years was still listed as active. And that concerned me a lot. I also went to a talk with the electoral board chair who spoke about the fact that Virginia Beach had 320,000 voters in the 2021 election, but in 2020 there was 450,000. So the numbers just weren't making sense to me. I took a look at the code, trying to figure out if the rolls were supposed to be cleaned up, because everyone I spoke to said that the law was 1 week. Things were supposed to be updated. But when I looked at my registrar's office, I looked at the public kiosk and realized that trying to cross-reference obituaries that had occurred in mid-July on were not reflecting, because the kiosk had not been updated since June 2nd, right before the primary, and I was in there in late August. So I asked the deputy registrar why the records were not updated, and it just seemed that it wasn't something that was important to be done. It probably was being done behind the scenes, but not on the public kiosk. So I called ELECT, talked to a staff member there who said that the order did require weekly updating. So that's when I contacted my delegate, Ms. Greenhall, and asked if the language could be revised so it didn't say promptly, which is what it currently states. It says weekly and required. So that's pretty much the story of why I'm here.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Do we have another person in the room that wishes to speak?
We have Madam Chair, Vicky Nichols.
Okay, Mr. Nichols, are you in the room?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Nichols, sorry.
That's fine. I am in absolute 100% favor of this. The voter rolls really need to be cleaned up, and giving time limits on when they get done is going to be helpful. Just as like a side note, there were over 15,000 ballots that were cast during early voting in the 22 general election, where the voter's register address on record was flagged as invalid by an NCOA check. Well, if you included addresses that were identified as 90-day vacant, the total went to over 17,000. So right here, there's multiple holes that are in correcting and fixing our election data, and I thank the delegate for being willing to plug one of those holes. Like I said, there's multiple. This works on one of them. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have questions from the committee for the patron?
Madam Chair.
Delegate Sickles?
My question is there anyone from ELECT here or anyone from the Registrars Association? Yes, please. Yes, ma'am. Yes, please. Hi.
Hi.
Just remind, if you could, just remind us of what the current process is and how deceased voters are currently taken off the registrar, and then what your role is, and then what the local registrar's role is.
So ELECT receives records and then relays those records through Veris, and they appear in what's called a hopper, which goes to the general registrars who then process the records, and that is done weekly.
Follow up, Madam Chair. So you're already doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Delegate Adams?
there is no current requirement that if a local registrar receives your information, sees that someone is deceased, that they must, within 7 days, remove that person.
Madam Chair, the code says promptly.
Okay. Thank you.
It's going to hurt rural Virginia. It's not going to hurt us.
Delegate Krizek?
I wanted to just ask a quick question, and I'd say that sadly my parents died during last year and during the election cycle, if you will, and they lived with me, and they did get a letter or after their death addressed to them, interestingly enough, but that told them that they were taken off the rolls. It was within about 2 weeks. It's Fairfax County, of course. Does this contemplate the letter also being sent out within a week?
We need to shut that door. We need to shut that door.
Madam Chair, it is a requirement that a letter is sent to the deceased expressing condolences, deceased's family, expressing condolences and letting them know that they are removed from the voter rolls. I believe that is triggered by the cancellation. So as soon as they are canceled within Veris, Veris generates the letter is then sent to the family. So it would be post-cancellation.
Madam Chair, just a follow-up question. I just wanted to know if there was also a time, like a 7-day or some kind of a time limit or expectation on when that letter would be sent.
There is no current statutory expectation of when that letter.
I understand that, Madam Chair. I'm trying to I'm talking about the new bill.
Madam Chair, if I could jump in. The new bill does not speak about a letter or any requirement for, but it does say that they have to have canceled within 7 days, and then it sounds like from the process that a letter is sent at that 7-day mark when it is canceled, if not sooner.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate O'Quinn?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could I speak to the bill just briefly? I don't really have a question for the patron. So if you look at the bill, I mean, we're discussing several different things, and really all this bill does is says the registrar shall cancel within 7 days, not shall cancel in a reasonable amount of time. I think for the committee, it's just a policy decision of do you want to tell the registrar you shall do it within 7 days or not. That's all the bill does.
Delegate Lefwich?
So sort of piggybacking on Delegate O'Quinn's comment, it sounds like to me that's what everybody's intent is. That's what they want to happen. And so all we're doing is making it explicit. I'm prepared to make a motion if the chair will entertain one.
Okay.
I made a report.
Okay. We have a motion, a second to report House Bill 1377. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Okay.
I'd like to request that I'd like to speak to the motion.
Okay.
I think that here what is unclear in this bill, Madam Chair, is that it says 7 days. 7 days in the middle of the week. It could incorporate weekends. And so I'd like here to know whether the delegate would be open to a friendly amendment to say 7 business days. I'm just concerned about whether there is sufficient time from an administrative standpoint to complete this.
Is that a motion? I'm going to move an amendment.
Yes.
A second amendment.
We
have a motion on the floor, Madam Chair.
No. So we're
okay.
Jay.
I'm not inclined to withdraw my motion.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion to move House Bill 1377. All of those in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Oh, so we've got to pull it.
He can move to withdraw.
He's not.
Okay. Well, then it's not a voice vote. We have to take a registered vote, recorded vote.
Yeah, close the roll. All right, House Bill 1377 reports out 19-2. Okay, members of the committee, let's hope I do a better job presenting this bill. Okay, this was brought forward by the rural registrars. What's happening is in the rural areas of Virginia, we are losing newspaper service with the local newspapers and then also with delivery of the larger newspapers. So this was presented to me by two of my localities, King George and Caroline County. They no longer have a local newspaper, but also the larger newspaper is not delivering anymore. So the larger newspaper will drop off at a gas station or a Sheetz or something like that. And in this code section of House Bill 1683, you'll see that currently the code requires 10 days before the election. They're requiring the registrars to put an ad in the paper just stating the time that you have to register, the last dates of the registration. And what this states is that it allows the registrars the option to publish an ad in the newspaper, giving notice of the final dates of the registration. So it's not saying that you can only publish online. It's just saying that if you don't have a newspaper of general circulation, that you can either just publish it on the website of the locality or the county, or you can, if you don't have a website at your locality, you can also put it in the newspaper. It's not saying that you no longer have to publish in the newspaper, but if you don't have a newspaper of general circulation, you can choose to just put it on the website. Happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you, Delegate Ranson. Does anyone on the committee have a question for Delegate Ranson at this time? Seeing none, do we have anyone online who wishes to comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. You were asking for the room. I'm rusty. I'm a little rusty. I thought you were
Do you have a question for
Yes.
the patron?
Yes.
Delegate Munden Keen.
Thank you. So currently, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So currently, for those who don't have like newspapers in circulation, are they advertising online? Are they required to advertise online with those newspapers?
They are currently putting ads in the newspaper now, and it's costing them anywhere from $400 to $900. They're advertising for my counties. They're advertising in the Freelance Star,
Okay.
and they're doing it 3 times a year. It's costing the county $900 per ad, is what they're telling me, and they don't even know where it's going. So the newspaper doesn't deliver anymore into those counties. And I did have the question that it is going probably online.
Okay.
But again, you have to buy that subscription, and it would go to them online if they so choose. But what the newspaper does is deliver to the Sheetz or they deliver to a gas station or something in the northern part of my district. Where I live in Westmoreland County, I have the option to get the Richmond Times-Dispatch, but they don't deliver to my address anymore. They deliver to a gas station. So, you're welcome.
I don't think we have anyone on the line at this time. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Amy Perrin-Seibert on behalf of the Virginia Press Association. And I had a chance to talk to the patron right before the meeting. And actually, as I was sitting here, I was trying to figure out if there was a way that we could come to some sort of a solution that solves their problem. Obviously, we're extremely sympathetic to the fact that you don't have any newspapers right now in those two counties. That's not something we're happy about either. We want there to be as many newspapers as there can be. I'm wondering if we look at this, because I think some of the problem too is that this bill will solve this, will affect the entire state. So I'm trying to figure out how we can maybe do this for places that have, because we think there should be on the county website and in a newspaper, because you get the widest and broadest advertisement of these public notices. So here's a suggestion, and I don't know if this might work or not, but I'm thinking this might help you. What if on lines 15, right now it's struck out, it says if applicable, and then it says, and the and is struck out. What if we added the and back in and moved the applicable to the end of line 16? So it would read, the notice for the final day shall be posted on the official website of any county or city and published at least once in a newspaper of general circulation in the county or city, if applicable. So that would mean if they don't have a newspaper, they can put it on the website, but the places that have newspapers could put it in the newspaper and on the county website. So it would be a little bit of both. It would sort of give you that out when you don't have a newspaper, but the places that do have papers, it would have to go in there. I don't know if that would be amenable, but I was trying to figure out a way that we could sort of solve your problem without getting rid of the requirement for being in the paper.
Delegate Ranson.
We're already doing that. So if you don't have a newspaper, then you don't have to publish it. You just put it on your website. If you do have a newspaper, then you publish it in your newspaper. And I guess I would refer to counsel to help explain that and answer that question. You already have, this is permissive. You have the option.
Madam Chair, committee, I think it's a policy choice. Right now, with the bill, it will make it an option, so a locality could choose to do both. A locality could look at their circumstances in that district and say, okay, we're going to just do the website. If the committee wants to go the route of requiring to have both, I think that we can certainly undo the bill, essentially. But I think it is a policy choice for the committee to make whether they want to mandate both or continue to mandate both or give that flexibility.
Meg, so let's say that theoretically we adopt this amendment and you put the if applicable at the end. Who determines if it's applicable or not? Because you're going to have some newspapers that are going to say, sure, we have service into Westmoreland County. They may not actually deliver to homes, so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? So who's going to determine if that's actually applicable if we adopted that?
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I think that's a really good question. I think right now with the if applicable came in when websites were these newfangled inventions, and so not every locality had a website. I think if you do put in the if applicable, then it does become that question of what counts as not being available or what counts as being available.
The only thing I would say to that, Mr. Chairman, is that it does say in the code how you can qualify to be a newspaper of public record for different counties. You have to go to court and you have to make that determination. So if we're not delivering in that county and we don't have a circulation there, we have to have a certain circulation. So right now we would probably not be eligible anyway in these areas, quite truthfully, to run those public notices because we're not delivering there. So I think the applicable would be sort of easy to figure out. And I do understand that it is permissive, but the problem is the places that have newspapers right now they have to put it in the paper and on their website, but if it says or, they could, even the big places like, for example, Fairfax could say, you know what, we don't want to put it in the paper anymore, and they can just put it on their website. So that's our concern, is the places that everybody could go to just putting on a website, which is not a place that everybody always goes to look for newspaper, for public notices. So anyway, I was hoping we could find a middle ground, which I'm sorry that I was trying to do that while sitting here.
Delegate Head.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if, Amy, you just mentioned that there was in code. I was wondering where
general circulation is defined, because even if you're delivering, you could count it as delivering that you're dropping off at the sheets that you're dropping off at the gas station, and that could qualify as delivering. When you're talking about a certified audit of circulation, that does qualify as a circulation. But I don't think, I'd like to know if there's general circulation. I'm a little reticent about doing what you have suggested there, just personally on this, because I think this is a real problem in rural areas, and I don't think, candidly, I know you're representing the newspapers, but they ain't coming back. So.
Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess rather than if applicable, would the appropriate language be if home delivery is available? Because then you're specifically stating that it has to be delivery at home. Because I have a lot of angst about just the death by 1,000 cuts to newspapers. Even if they're not coming back, they're still a source of news for a lot of people, myself included. My kids think I'm archaic, but I like the newspaper. So I don't know, does that get at the issue? And I guess that's a question for Meg.
Circulation code in front of me.
Madam Chair, if Delegate Van Valkenburg could restate his question.
Yeah, so Meg, if instead of saying where applicable, if the end, and now I don't remember the full sentence, but if it basically said something like where there is home delivery, so that you're then ensuring that it can't just be a newspaper that drops off at the 7-Eleven or has an online presence, but actually has to be a newspaper that is actually delivering in a neighborhood, would that meet the goals of both in a better way? ?
I think that's certainly a possible amendment, would address the issue of sort of narrowing what we mean by general circulation, but again, policy choice for the committee.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a stricter standard than we have now.
Delegate Simons.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to ask a question. So, as I understand it right now, this is permissive for places where there is not a newspaper of general circulation. But for my city of Newport News, because they do have a paper of general circulation, it would be required, or is it permissive for the city of Newport News as well?
They would be able to choose what they want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pass this by for the week. It appears that we are trying to rewrite the legislation as we're sitting here, and so I'd like to make a motion that we just pass it by for the week so that the patron and the other stakeholders could have a chance to work on this offline.
Substitute motion, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Lethbridge.
I move the report.
Second. It's been a motion made properly seconded to move to report. All those wishing to vote on the electronic voting board.
Speaking to the motion.
Delegate Mundy-King.
Thank you. The more I listen, the more I think, as well-intentioned as this is, it can be used as a tool for voter suppression, because the county websites do not have the same reach as the newspaper and newspaper websites. So I wish we had the chance to talk it through a little more, as my colleague suggested. But unfortunately, I'm going to be a no on this and ask my colleagues to join me in that, because we are making a lot of changes every year to voter law. And I think as many people as we reach, we should be trying to reach. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Adams.
Just speaking to the bill, I'm going to vote in favor of the legislation, and I believe it's the opposite of suppression. This is a reality that we're dealing with getting the word out. The reality is people are online more than they are on newspapers now, and I think that's a well-known reality, and the purpose of the legislation is to get the word out, not to prop up the newspapers. So because of that, I'm going to be voting in favor of the legislation.
Delegate Van Valkenburg, speaking to the motion.
Speaking to the motion, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Just real briefly, I mean, I just think there's a middle ground here. Newspapers are an important part of democracy. I think the kind of hype about people being online is overrated. I think most people are not online. People never reach out to me more than when I'm on TV or in a newspaper, not when I'm on, say, the Virginia Mercury. No offense, Virginia Mercury. And so, I mean, I think where we can, there's a way to square this circle, I guess is what I'm saying. And newspapers are fundamental to democracy. That's why they're in the First Amendment. And so I kind of wish we could have made that change. Some would be voting no, but if we could make that change, I would gladly support the legislation.
And I suspect this is not the last time we'll see this bill, too. So I think we'll have an opportunity to work on it going forward. There is a motion made, properly seconded. We're ready to vote. You want to call it Delegate Ranson?
Yes.
Clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1683 is reported 11-9.
Thank you. All right, that completes our first meeting docket for elections. Thank you all for your work.